If you're looking to complete Noita's 5-minute speedrun achievement, or you're interested in pushing for competitive times, understanding the fundamentals of the any percent category can make speedrunning the game much more approachable. In this guide, I'll cover most of the common builds, routes, and strategies used by any percent speedrunners. We'll start by discussing the different ways to reach Kolmi quickly, then cover some of the most reliable boss kill methods, and finish by discussing some general tips and ways to practice speedrunning the game. Traversing the world can vary vastly, depending on what we find early on in a run. The most basic but still effective for achieving a sub 5-minute victory is simply a teleport bolt. We prefer the short teleport bolt as it gives more control and has reduced mana cost, but long tele is also viable for achieving a decently fast run. When using a tele bolt, also be on the lookout for a long distance cast, as combining these two spells enables you to teleport through walls, which makes traveling through zones even faster. To get to the next level, however, we need to make use of long-form teleports, via either the Teleportitis perk, the spell Circle of Displacement, or a flask of Teleportatium. First, let's discuss the Teleportitis perk. This perk teleports you a pretty significant distance whenever you take damage. A quick and easy way to proc it is by lighting yourself on fire or jumping into toxic sludge. Alternatively, you can hit yourself with a spell that does self-harm like Acid Ball, Acid Trail, Plasma, or Pollen. The power of long-form teleports like this is that you have control over where you get teleported, as the game tries to teleport you in the direction your cursor is pointing. It will, however, send you in a random direction if it doesn't find a valid teleport location in the direction you specified. One key limitation of long-form teleports is that the game considers any location outside of your current biome to be an invalid teleport destination. Basically, if you are in the fungal cavern and use a long-form teleport, you will teleport to another location in the fungal cavern. This means that you will need to get a feel for the size of each zone and be aware of your positioning, as sometimes teleporting to the side on a diagonal path, or even not teleporting at all, is the best option. Holy Mountains, however, are exceptions to this rule, allowing teleports to neighboring biomes. Sometimes bypassing mountains entirely is the best option, as the area with the portal is technically part of the Holy Mountain biome. Standing in this area and performing a long-form teleport with your cursor pointed down will enable you to jump directly to the next zone. This trick is not 100% consistent though, so I don't like to rely on it very often. One more thing of note specific to Teleportitis is that because the final boss arena is surrounded by lava, getting hit at all during the fight is often a death sentence. The second method of performing long-form teleports is via the Circle of Displacement. This spell often shows up in the first Holy Mountain and is probably the easiest way to complete a sub 3-minute run. Whenever you cast the spell, it applies a status effect that teleports you 3 times during its duration. The 3 teleports are separated by 2-second windows for you to assess your surroundings and decide on your next move. This makes for a less frantic feeling run that can still be incredibly fast. The third main method of performing long-form teleports is with a flask of Teleportatium. This theoretically offers the best control of the 3 methods, but is much less likely to show up in an actual run, as regular Teleportatium is not eligible to spawn naturally in a flask. You either have to make it yourself with some unstable tele and slime, or get one from a flask thrower. Both of these strategies can potentially waste a lot of time, so you generally don't see Teleportatium used as often as the other long-form teleport methods, but if your ultimate goal is to get the sub 5-minute speedrun achievement, an early Teleportatium flask is an excellent way to do it. In addition to teleporting, digging your way to the final boss is also a valid strategy, and black holes or white holes are by far the easiest methods to do this. These spells often show up in the first Holy Mountain shop, but in order to fire them, you need a wand with a mana max of at least 180. The biggest downfall to them is obviously that they don't travel very far on their own, but there are a few perks that if you find in conjunction with a black hole can get you a pretty fast run. The 2 easiest ones being Repulsion Field and Repulsion Sector. Just firing straight down and hopping from Holy Mountain to Holy Mountain is super fast, and can easily net you a sub 5-minute run. While this setup is nice, the true king of any percent speedrunning is the Angry Ghost and Black Hole combo. The way that the Angry Ghost perk works is that the ghost casts a copy of the last spell fired near it whenever you cast a wand. The strategy is to get the ghost to copy a black hole, then fire a wand with really low cast lane recharge time like the red starter wand. The ghost just spams a ton of black holes and you can dig through the world with ease. With some practice, you can dig straight from the first holy mountain to the final boss in approximately a minute. The ghost does occasionally copy enemy projectiles while you're digging your way there, so be prepared to fire another black hole in its direction if you need to. The general path I like to follow whenever I get this set up is to hold my movement to the right while falling until I make it through the snowy depths. Then just kinda tap the key until I pass the dragon cave and barely miss the vault. Then head almost straight down from there. If your ultimate goal is to get the sub 5 minute speedrun achievement, however, I would recommend digging completely around all the zones to avoid all the enemies. Specifically, if you drop straight down from the right edge of snowy depths, you should fall straight through the door boss and make it to the final boss arena without encountering any enemies. The Angry Hole is by far the fastest and most powerful setup in the category, but is also one of the rarest to assemble in an actual run. That pretty much sums up the main travel methods for reaching Kolmi, so let's discuss what to do once we get there as well as what to look out for on our way that enable us to defeat the boss quickly. In general, the boss kill methods I look out for most often are Acid, Chainsaw, Telekinetic Kick, or Freeze Kick. We'll discuss these and a few others that you should look out for as well. To start, one of the easiest methods you will find is the Telekinetic Kick perk. If you find this perk, you can simply catch the debris falling from the ceiling at the start of the boss fight and throw it at Kolmi. Don't get discouraged if you miss the first shot, as you can simply catch the rock and throw it again. Telekinetic Kick isn't the only way to kick the boss to death, as if you can find a Circle of Stillness, a Freezing Gaze, or a Freeze Charge, a Freeze Kick will do the trick too. Getting the boss frozen can be a bit inconsistent, but once they are frozen by one of these spells, a simple kick from the player will reduce the health bar to 1 HP and you can easily finish them off. Alternatively, if you happen to find the perk Never Skip Leg Day, you can chip away at the boss's health bar about 100 HP at a time. This method is a bit slow and takes some dodging skills, but if you are desperate, it will get the job done. Probably the most common way to kill the boss, however, is by using a chainsaw. Just spamming chainsaws into Kolmi will shred them in like 2 seconds. The key to this method is using a wand with a low recharge time like the starter bomb one. One of the other big methods for killing Kolmi is by using acid. A well-thrown acid flask will easily insta-kill the boss. The strategy is to pick up the Sampo and start the fight right as the acid flask is flying through the center of the boss, whether that be on its way up or on its way down. The acid flask, however, is not the only way to kill them with acid, as there are numerous spells that produce acid as well. The acid material spell, the Sea of Acid, and the Circle of Acid are all really good too. Acid Balls and Acid Trail will also work, but require a bit more skill or luck to pull off. When using Acid Balls, I find it most consistent to try to hit Kolmi on the top of the head from above. And when using Acid Trail, you need to consider what spell it is attached to, as some spells work better than others. Using Earthquakes to create falling rubble just above the boss is also a valid strategy. Putting Earthquake Shot on a simple projectile is an easy way to hit Kolmi for massive damage. The Earthquake spell will also work, but make sure you have a way to dig through the rubble to the portal, as this strategy will pour lava everywhere. A few other spells to look out for that will do super well against Kolmi are Plasma Cross, Plasma Beam, Plasma Cutter, Eldritch Portal, Block of Ducks, or a wand with a chain of tentacle timers. There are of course many other spells and perk combos that will be able to kill Kolmi quickly, but this covers the main ones that you are most likely to come across in a run. An item that you may see along the way to enable an easy Kolmi kill is a Runestone of Edges. Just placing it down near Kolmi during the fight will convert all projectiles to saw blades and cause the boss to kill itself. The final method for killing the boss that I'll mention is what I refer to as Tele Kick at Home. It's a strategy for using the black holes copied by Angry Ghost to alter the fall path of the same falling rock you would use with the Tele Kick boss kill. If you do it perfectly, you can throw the rock directly into the boss. It's super difficult to pull off and largely dependent on Kolmi's initial movement pattern, but if you make it to the boss with only Angry Ghost and Black Hole, you might as well go for it. That covers some of the most common ways to defeat Kolmi in an 80% speedrun. While the exact strategy you'll use will vary from run to run, knowing a handful of reliable boss kill methods will dramatically improve your odds of successfully completing a run. Let's finish by discussing some general tips, routing decisions, and practice methods that can help tie everything together. As you should generally just be booking it for the final boss once you have a good travel setup, let's touch on my thought process at the beginning of a run. First of all, resetting for a seed with Acceleradium as the starting flask isn't 100% necessary for earning the 5-minute speedrun achievement, but it is almost required if you want to get a sub 3 minute or competitive time. Because of this, the use of the Acceleradium Seeds Only mod from the Steam Mod Workshop is allowed for submissions to speedrun.com and generally accepted in the speedrun community. This mod filters through seeds and only loads you into ones that start with an Acceleradium flask. Once I actually start a run, I chug my Acceleradium and head to the right to use that small chasm on the side of the mines to make my way down. For the most part, I don't spend much time collecting resources in this zone, but there are a few things worth keeping an eye out for. If you can find a wand along the way with at least 180 max mana and capable of firing a black hole, it may prove useful later in the run. The main goal, however, is to make it at the first holy mountain as fast as possible, as your odds of finding useful spells quickly are highest there. I usually avoid directly killing any enemies in order to earn a pacifist chest in the holy mountain, but if I see an easy opportunity to perform a trick kill, I may take a second or two to do it. Oftentimes, you will accidentally get kill credit on an enemy while digging, in which case you should probably go out of your way to collect a little more gold in the mines to be able to afford anything in the holy mountain. If you are collecting gold in the mines, at least 60 gold is generally the number I shoot for. This is enough to buy either a black hole, a circle of displacement and a chainsaw, or a long distance cast plus teleport bolt. Obviously though, you should collect more gold if you can do so without wasting time. Usually, if I don't see any useful spells or perks up to this point, I will reset for a better seed, but if you're just going for a sub 5-minute victory, you may want to check the first 2 or 3 holy mountains before giving up on a seed. Like I said previously, once you find a good way to traverse the remaining zones, just sprint down and pray you find an easy boss killer on the way if you don't already have one. Well, finding the right spells and perks is important. There are also a few techniques that can help you get more out of the jewels you do find. One such technique is called recharge skipping. The idea is that if you build a wand with multiple spell blocks, you can repeatedly cast just the first block, resetting the wand each time by scrolling away from and back to it. This means you can ignore all recharge time as you never reach the end of the wand. An easy way to perform this trick is to bind use wand, next item, and previous item to a single hotkey. I personally use my middle mouse button, but many people bind it to their scroll wheel, allowing them to spam it quickly. In speedrunning, recharge skipping often turns a slow teleport wand into a fast one, and allows you to consolidate multiple builds into one wand. This can be super important as we don't have time to look around for the perfect wand and have to use whatever we find along the way. A tool that can reduce the monotony of having to constantly start new games searching for good seeds is a restart script. This makes resetting to a new run as simple as a single key press. I will link a guide from speedrun.com on how to set up and use a restart script in the description below. A restart script won't necessarily make your runs faster, but it is super nice when resetting often, like with the any % category. Finally, the most important thing to learning Noita speedrunning is practice. For the most part, I would recommend just jumping into it, but there are lots of useful mods on the Steam Workshop that can help accelerate the learning process. Being able to repeatedly practice things like the Kolmi fight or angry hole strats can make a huge difference to performance during unmodded runs. At the end of the day, Noita 80% speedrunning is about making the most of the opportunities you are presented with. The more runs you play, the faster you'll become at identifying which seeds are worth continuing and which strategies are available to you. Hopefully, this guide gives you the knowledge you need to achieve the 5-minute victory and start exploring Noita speedrunning for yourself.